James Taylor and Carolina in my mind. I'm here in the studio with special guest Tim Lee, local singer-songwriter. Tim, what about that one for you?
Yeah, great song. Yeah, I was just saying what an amazing song Fire and Rain is as well. If you like that song, want to check out any more James Taylor, that's where I started probably.
Well, I suppose I first heard James Taylor in the 1970s, and some songs last, I think, longer than others, and I think this kind of genre enables it to stretch across the decades. It sounds just as good now as it did in the 1970s.
I think that's because it's kind of stripped down and it's basic. It's not kind of got anything that dates.
From a production perspective, you mean?
Yeah, just a person and a guitar. It doesn't get much more universal than that. So
yeah, it's very simple. And you've brought your guitar in today, of course, and we'll be hearing a few tunes from you a little bit later on. But what about some more of the influences that you've had and the way about which you go writing your songs in particular?
Yeah. Well, I think I've always been just obsessed with music, so my interests are pretty eclectic, really. I think they sort of range from the James Taylors, and I think my biggest influence would definitely be Paul Simon, who we're going to talk a bit more about later, aren't we? But there's also like David Bowie and people like that, and the Velvet Underground, and also, like, I think I got into music, writing music at the time of sort of grunge, which was like the second coming of punk, really. And the thing I really got from that is this idea that anyone can have a go, which I think's really always been a real important ethos in everything I do, really. That music should be about bringing barriers down rather than putting them up, and that everyone should have a go, everyone should get into as much music as they can and find things that connect with them. And I think it was a good time, really, because there was a lot of that sort of overblown virtuoso stuff in the sort of mid to late 80s, all these kind of poodle perm rock bands and stuff, and it was all about how many notes you could play. And I think grunge really brought it back down. I know that Neil Young was a big influence on that, and that kind of, like a few notes done with passion rather than a million notes done the same each time.
Okay.
So yeah, that kind of influence has always been important to me.
But you mentioned Paul Simon there, and the early work of Simon and Garfunkel. I know I asked you if you would choose a few tracks for us to play, and you've chosen The Only Living Boy in New York.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
I think two reasons, really, why I love this song. I've always absolutely loved Paul Simon. We were talking off air a minute ago about what it is about his music. I think he's just real in what he writes. You can relate to every lyric that he says. And something about his music, I don't know what it is necessarily, but it connects with me, and I've always related to it and what he's saying. In this particular song, it's quite an interesting album this comes from. It's Bridge Over Troubled Water. It's right at the end of him and Garfunkel's relationship, really, a friendship. They'd been mates all the way through school, and they'd grown up together, and then they'd become famous, which obviously puts a lot of pressure on any friendship. And there's kind of signs in this album where Paul's really like, you can tell it's almost like a bitter divorce, almost, like McCartney and Lennon when the Beatles broke up. There's songs like Why Don't You Write Me and things like that, because Garfunkel was going off to appear in Catch-22 at the time. He was trying to be sort of take off as an actor, and this song is it's kind of like this. He says, "Tom, get your plane ride on time. I know your part will go fine." And when they first started as a duo, they were called Tom and Jerry. I don't know if you knew.
Yes.
And it's all kind of about that, Tom, get your plane ride on time.
Oh, okay. I hadn't realised that's where the Tom came from.
So it's a bittersweet song, because he's wishing Garfunkel well, even though he knows that they're not going to be together anymore. They're not going to be, that bromance is breaking up.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hear it with that. Thanks very much for that.
But also, I have to say, Roy Halley's production on this, because I'm obsessed with sound production, and when the voices come in, it's a real, like the voices at the end, like the big choir at the end, real hair on the back of your neck stuff going. It just, if it doesn't blow you away that bit, then
let's listen out for that then with Simon and Garfunkel, and the play this one then.
Cheers.